Welcome to InvestorCOM's Wealth Compliance Leaders Series. In today's conversation, we have the absolute pleasure of speaking with Mr. Bo Howell, an industry veteran who's worked across the industry. He's worked as a regulator, a securities lawyer, and most recently as a Regtech founder. Bo, super excited to have you on our show today.
Thanks, Parm. I appreciate the invitation. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, you're a securities lawyer, a fintech startup founder, and a prominent leader in the securities and regulation industry. Super curious, what was the calling in terms of getting into the Regtech space?
That is somewhat by accident. My background, like you said, being a securities lawyer, I've been at the SEC. Kind of seen things from the regulatory side. I went in-house to a large asset manager, Fortune 500 company, saw things from the business side, really enjoyed, found out I had a passion for the product development on the business side. But really my whole career, I've been more of a problem solver. I love solving problems. I love the challenge. I love the creativity needed to solve the problem. And so for me, it was kind of a natural progression to go from solving legal problems and compliance problems to doing that with technology, because I think there's so much room for technology to kind of penetrate our industry, change the way processes are done, change the way business is done, change the way we engage with investors, engage with regulators. And so I do think our industry is probably a decade behind most innovation.
Hey. In any highly regulated industry, I think it's ripe for innovation. It's ripe for technology. And so, hey, given your path and given some of the sort of experiences you've accumulated in terms of just working at the SEC and now in your current seat as a securities lawyer, fundamentally, if you had a magic wand or a wish, what would you do? What would you do to change the industry for the better?
It's funny, you see all these rules coming out, rule after rule, right? And some of them have minor impacts on the registrants, others have bigger ones. But this whole concept of we could just keep adding layers and layers and layers of disclosure, it's not effective. I mean, investors are not reading dozens and dozens and dozens of pages of documents. They're just not, right? And so, but yet we keep going down this regulatory path of let's just keep adding on more and more disclosure. Oh, the disclosure we required before is not working, so let's just add more. I think you almost kind of have to throw everything out and start fresh, figure out a more effective way to get information to investors. The biggest problem, I think, with just society in general is we're all dealing with information overload, right? So adding more and more information just kind of puts us over the edge. How do we simplify it? How do we make it more digestible, but still give investors what they need to make informed decisions? So, I'd love to see kind of a wholesale change in the disclosure model.
Interesting. I'm sure as a former regulator,
they're not happy with me right now.
The disclosure model works. Okay, so speaking of regulations, there's in the time that Bo, you and I have known each other, there's been regulation best interest, the marketing rule. Now, the Department of Labor's PTE 2020-02, and a lot of focus on sort of addressing that advisor-client relationship. I know your software works on certain elements of that. InvestorCOM software works on certain other elements of that. What are your thoughts on these regulations and how they impact compliance officers and fundamentally the wealth management industry?
Yeah, so the first, when you look at these rules, right, again, a lot of them are bringing more and more disclosure, right, which I talked to is burdensome. The amount of data that compliance officers need to deal with now, it's no longer just write some policies and procedures, do a little bit of testing, right? There's so many things now that you have to have policies on, so many procedures you have to have in place. And all of that's bringing back more and more data. And it's changing the skill set needed to be an effective compliance officer, right? Like when you go back like 20 years ago, every CCO pretty much was a lawyer, right? And then they realized, hey, there's a lot of kind of financial and other elements to this. And so people with auditing or financial backgrounds also became CCOs, right? Nowadays, I think you almost need to have some understanding and skill sets in technology, particularly, I think, eventually machine learning, data science, things like that. So I think it's changing the way, it's changing the amount of information compliance officers have to deal with. It's changing the amount of tasks they have to complete. And as you keep adding more and more tasks and more information, that's burdensome for humans to manage. Our brains just don't handle, we can't scale. But it is something that machines can handle. So I think you need to have compliance officers adopting more technology just to handle that massive amount of data and tasks that are coming their way.
I agree. We were speaking with firms who, so for example, they'll say, hey, a regulator asked us for the number of recommendations we made in this period. And you're now looking at 12 million recommendations
right.
gone out to their enterprise clients. How do you manually, how can you physically, as a compliance officer, sit there and, go through 12,000 or 12 million records and assess whether they're appropriate or not? Now, I mean, the thesis of technology between your career and what you do is super clear. What do you believe the role of technology is going to be on a go-forward basis?
So I think technology, a lot of people worry about technology replacing them, right? Replacing jobs and things like that. I think it's going to augment the current roles, right? The things machines do very well is handle routine, repeatable processes and large amounts of data. The things machines don't do well is, creative stuff, right? Problem solving. And that's what people are very good at. And so I see the two of them coming together, on the machine side, technology side, really helping to just manage a lot of the day-to-day tasks, but then delivering information, whether it's to exception reporting or some other type of notification to the compliance officers when there are issues or trends or other things coming up. And then I think compliance officers really need to think about how to leverage technology to identify those trends and to be thinking about those bigger picture, higher level things instead of just worrying about, did I collect the certifications? Did I collect all the documentation? Is it saved in the right folder? That type of stuff. That's not high value work. And there's a lot of just brilliant compliance officers out there, and they're doing administrative work that a machine could easily do.
Amen. Mr. Howell.
Mic drop, we're done.
Automation, mic drop. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll speak with you soon.
Great, thank you.
If you've enjoyed today's session with Bo, please like this video and subscribe to our channel across YouTube, Spotify, and Google Podcasts.